Good evening. It's just gone 7 o'clock on a Tuesday. You all know what that means. It's the Tuesday ticket. I'm your host, David Logue, and as always on a Tuesday, I am not joined by Boise and Mark Jim. I am joined by Phil and Regan. So sorry to disappoint. They'll be on Thursday. Mark, Mark will be on Thursday, so you can keep an eye out for him then. But you'll have to make do with us. So Phil, Regan, how you doing, guys?
All good, mate. All good. Happy to be on again.
Doing good, so I think Tuesday's become my favourite day, David, because I know I'm on with you guys, so it's really good. It's great to be on.
Too nice. Too nice,
Regan. You're too nice, mate. Listen, I was expecting you to be wearing a nice new home shirt with Adam Ida on the back, Regan, but you were one day short, mate. So you're unlucky. Yeah, it was never in doubt. Never in doubt. Never in doubt.
Yeah, right. You are nervous, man.
Wipe that sweat off my brow there.
David, you joking, everything, you were sweating, mate.
I was got the antiperspirant. I was spraying like mad. I was sweating everywhere. I was sitting there googling, like, wonder what Regan. I just get like, what one did he prefer? Would he look good in the yellow, or would he look good in the hoops? He looked good in both, mate. I'm sure. Right, before we get started, because we've got some sad topics to talk about tonight, guys. But this is a safe space for us all. You know, come on the bus. Everybody get a big cuddle, and we'll all cry together about potential Matt O'Reilly leaving. But before we do that, give us a like, give us a share, slag the hair, become a Boise Bus member for a small cost of $1.99. All our content is free. This is completely optional, just allows you to help support the bus. And we've got guys like Alex Forsyth, Jim Dolan, Jim C, Teresa, where are you? There you are. Ian McIntosh, all these guys, and there are many, many more that have become Boise Bus members, and we appreciate every single one of you. And every single one of you that aren't, well, that's fine. Make sure that you subscribe, hit the bell button, you know when the bus is coming. And of course, big shout out to piesports.com. Get 12.5% off your Tasty Pastry treats at the checkout with the code BUS1888. Right. Let's get started, Phil.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just rip that plaster right off.
Yep.
Right, well, I've taken an article from the legend that is Tony Haggerty that's on the Celtic Way. Him and Hamish and all the other guys do a great job over there. And Tony had put up about an hour ago his article about the pending Matt O'Reilly leaving the club. So he says, so this is from Tony. It says Celtic midfielder Matt O'Reilly is closing in on a Scottish transfer record move to English Premier League side Brighton and Hove Albion. And the Celtic Way understands that the move will be confirmed in the next 48 hours. Brighton have tabled an offer over £25 million, €30 million, with a 10% sell-on clause, and the switch will be announced in the coming days. The Scottish champions have been in negotiations all week with the Seagulls after learning that the midfielder was interested in joining Fabian Hurzeller's side. O'Reilly's fee surpasses the record of 25 million transfer deals for Kieran Tierney that went to Arsenal in 2019, and Jota, who went to El Etihad from Celtic last summer. Phil. Me and you said last week that we were fairly confident. In fact, we were really confident that Matt O'Reilly was staying. However, Tony over at the Celtic Way has broke some terrible news. How are we feeling about this, Phil? How are we feeling, mate?
I obviously, yes, you're right. You know, the two of us, I was definitely confident that O'Reilly would stay. And hey, he's still a Celtic player just now. It's obviously going to be in his hands. The club are probably going to accept it. It sounds like Brighton really do mean business. They're going to be quite aggressive here in their approach. So it sounds to me like Celtic are going to give Matt O'Reilly very little choice in the matter. If the money's right, Brendan Rodgers has been pretty clear the whole way along. He's never came out and said Matt O'Reilly's not for sale. That's never been his language that he's used. He's always just said, bid on the player, not on the league. So he's kind of still saying, as long as you get the price right, in our eyes, then we'll talk. Looks like it's going to happen, and I think when I say this, I think it's shared by many around all of the Celtic fandom. It's what happens next that worries us, because I, like many, understand where Celtic are in the pecking order, understand where they are in the food chain, where the way it works for us, these players come in, they do 2 or 3 years, pushes their value up, we sell them on for a big profit, and that's it. They go with our blessing. And these guys haven't grown up Celtic fans. They come in, they do their best for us, and my God, Matt O'Reilly's done really well for us. But the way things have went in the last couple of years, maybe even longer, with this regime, do you trust them to make the right investments next, especially with 10 days, 11 days left in the window? That is the big concern right now. And I think that is what is worrying fans most. If we had a record of bringing in some marquee players and being really shrewd in the transfer market, basically, I don't think the attitude around would be a lot of doom and gloom like it seems to be. It's because many of us are just really concerned about what are they going to do next, and nobody can predict it right now. Have they got a rabbit they're going to pull out the hat here? Have they been doing their due diligence? You'd like to think so, but again, evidence recently shows that that might not be the case.
Regan, what's your thoughts on Brighton as a club for Matt O'Reilly to move to? I used to think that Brighton, when you hear the club Brighton, you go, really Brighton, but they've been in the Premier League for a good few years now. They're a very stable club, and they've made a lot of money on some clever signings over the years. They've had some really good managers over the last couple of years. It's become a far more attractive club to move to in the Premier League. There was talks that no matter how often Atalanta wanted to bid on Matt O'Reilly, I think Matt O'Reilly didn't really have his heart set on going to Italy. Surprisingly so, since Atalanta are quite the hipster club, and they're in and about the Champions League again this season, Europa League winners last season.
Yeah.
But Brighton has become it kind of almost makes sense. I'm going to Brighton despite the fact that they don't have European football this year, but everything about them, apart from that, is obviously a very appealing move in terms of the league that they play in, the style of football, the type of manager, and where they manage to move their players onto once they've developed them further.
I think Brighton's a perfect club, David. And people talk about Celtic being stepping stone FC of Scottish football. What I would go as far to say Brighton are stepping stone FC of the Premier League. Look at the players that they've sold over the past two to 3 years. I've sold players to Chelsea, to Man U, to to Man City. So I feel like Matt O'Reilly will see the progression there. He'll see what he can do. Do you know what I mean? He probably says to himself, "That's not going to be my end goal, but what Brighton will do, it'll give me a platform is to go on to bigger and better things." I don't think he'll be at Brighton for as long as he was at Celtic, because I genuinely think he's one of the players that actually genuinely enjoyed being at Celtic. Celtic's had players over the past couple of years like Odson Edward, Olivier and Cham, people like that have really wanted to get out of the club, and I feel like people like Matt O'Reilly, people are going, "Oh well, he's been here, he's done his time," but I think he genuinely enjoyed being here. He genuinely enjoys the club, and Brendan Rodgers has said throughout the whole process he's been great. And the transfer speculations and that, I don't think it's bothered them properly, because I don't think if Celtic got to the 31st of August, David, when Phil does the show on the Friday night, I don't think that if we get to that point and Matt O'Reilly was still at the club, I don't think he'd be one of the players that would be moaning at Brendan and arguing and trying to moan about the club. I genuinely think he'd be happy, but I think it's the reality of where Celtic is in the food chain of football clubs at the minute, and I think it's the genuine best option. But what I will say is I've seen a lot of people on social media talk about that Bernardo is the O'Reilly replacement. And I like what Brendan Rodgers said on Sunday to his media conference. He said that if Matt O'Reilly does stay, he wants at least one more midfielder. So that tells me that if Matt O'Reilly does go, we're probably looking at two midfielders. Because if he's already saying that he wants one more midfielder in is to join Matt O'Reilly when he's already got people like Thiago Holm, Bernardo, people like that are not able to force their way in. Then that tells me that Brendan Rodgers is fully knows what he wants from the club. But I'm still a bit annoyed at the club because I don't think that personally, like you were saying, that I don't know if they've got options that they potentially look at, but they're probably looking at it all summer. Well, hopefully, because this is something that they've probably looked at and went, this is something where that's what I touched on last week. This is probably his peak value, even though you could probably get something for him next summer. I think this is probably the peak time. But yeah, I just hope the club have got something in mind to bring people in, because I know people say, well, these players will be a big miss in that. But see what Rio Hatate, Matt O'Reilly, and McGregor do in that midfield. See the tempo they bring. It's unbelievable. See when you're watching it at the match. See if you're watching it on Sky or you're watching it on the Premier Sports, you probably don't notice just what they do. But see when you're actually at every single Celtic match, you actually notice the tempo that these guys bring.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I think it's going to be a huge miss.
No, absolutely, mate. And Phil, Stephen Ray makes a great point here. He says, I have no issues in selling players as long as all the money goes to the manager's wish list. There are many examples of teams selling the best players and recruiting to a better team. And he also, I want to add another one that he said here was, if we don't sell players and show that pathway to bigger leagues and pay packets, then you'll never attract ambitious players in the first place. Stephen's got a good point there, Phil. I mean, at the end of the day, like Regan touched on it, unfortunately, in the modern football, Celtic are in a certain bracket and they're on a certain place on the food chain that is football, and it's difficult for us fans to accept that, being Celtic fans. There's no club bigger than Celtic. There's no other team that anyone should want to play for other than Celtic. Isn't the reality? It's a reality that we wish was the case, but it just isn't. And I think the sooner that we kind of accept that, the better. Now, there will be another Matt O'Reilly. There will be one. It might not be this window coming. It might not be the next one or the next one. But who played in that position before we got Matt O'Reilly?
David Turnbull, I'm going to say, because O'Reilly arrived halfway through Ange's first season. I think David Turnbull played like majority of games up until I think the League Cup final. I think he got crocked in the League Cup final, but yeah, I think it was Turnbull.
See, you can't even really put exact player on it. Now, the point I'm making is somebody will come along that will forget all about Matt O'Reilly because he's moved on, and we've now got this brand new, fantastic player that we're desperate to hold on to. So the other players will come and go as well. We just have to enjoy them while they're here and be happy that moved on. But Phil, another player that potentially could be leaving, according to reports, is Rio Hatate. Now, this cannot happen. We're talking about our due diligence of making sure that we replace Matt O'Reilly, because Brighton are bringing in Matt O'Reilly before they even allow Billy Gilmore to leave, because that's what clubs should do. And we're talking about, let's hope they've got their due diligence in place to make sure another player comes in before Matt O'Reilly leaves, or at least replaces him. We haven't even got that yet, and there's talk about Rio Hatate leaving, Phil, and that is beyond thinking about right now. But unfortunately, it is a reality. Hatate is keen on a Leicester move. Apparently, I mean, to be honest, I love Rio Hatate. I think he's a brilliant player. We saw how much we missed him through last season. There was no coincidence that the tempo and the quality went up when Hatate came back into the team and complemented the midfield really, really well. But the boy literally shows his arse at any Premier League club that even has a sniff at it. And that concerns me, that we've got a player that doesn't want to be at Celtic anymore. Now, do I want him to leave? No. Should he leave? Please, no. My worry is that he's not going to be fully focused on Celtic, and he's going to go in the huff, Phil, if he doesn't get a move as well. But it can't happen. It just can't happen this window.
No, it would be incredibly negligent from the club to allow that to happen. 2 star midfielders leaving at this time in the window with just, as I say, 10 days to go. Yeah, it's a crazy one. But you're right about Hatate in terms of he does seem to be putting a lot of noise out there that he's open to a move, which again is fine. I understand where we are, the pecking order. I get it. But it's interesting about Leicester, because did you watch Leicester's game last night with Tottenham?
I did. They were. I mean,
Yeah,
they weren't great.
Yeah.
we're very poor.
Yeah.
And
so
sorry, on you go.
I was going to say, the first thing that I would say is, if you go from being managed by Ange Postecoglou to Brendan Rodgers, then to Steve Cooper,
Oh
it's
my God.
quite a drop down. Now, there was something that gets said over the summer, and they picked it up a few times last night on the commentary. I heard Alan Smith saying it a few times. He was doing co-commentary. Leicester have still got a very big chance they're getting a massive points deduction this season. So if Rio Hatate wants to go to the Premier League, you may as well relegate Leicester right now, because if they get this rumoured 15-point deduction, and given last season that Sheffield United finished bottom of that league with only 16 points, the chances of Leicester staying up are pretty slim. So if that is his ambition to go to Leicester, who, as I say, I've got a massive points deduction potentially hanging over them that looks like it's going to happen because of financial fair play breaches, then that is insane. If that is genuinely the level that he's willing to go to. I don't think it will happen, but I do share your concern that if it doesn't happen, he is more likely, I think, to be a bit more like down in tools. So if Matt O'Reilly doesn't get his move, I still think Matt O'Reilly would be a consummate professional. I give Celtic sit down with Brighton and go, do you know what? Thanks, but no thanks. We're not taking that offer. And they hold out. I think O'Reilly will still get on with it, and I think he'll still play well. Hatate, to me, there is, with what he's done, the noises he's made, the things he's put out there in recent times, does make me think that if he doesn't get a move, if there is concrete offers there, then there is a risk that could happen. But Brendan Rodgers will be shrewd enough with that. If a player is down in tools, I think Brendan will be ruthless enough to just say, well, just put him, said we brought in Bernardo after all. We have brought him in, so maybe that's where Bernardo ends up getting more game time, and maybe in January Hatate gets his move. But Leicester would be an absolute mad move for him with what's potentially going to happen to them this season. So that's a really odd choice if he's that desperate to go there.
Regan, he's also been touted that there's interest for him in Spain and Italy, but there's not been any clubs mentioned. So it might not only be Leicester that might show an interest in him, but I just feel, despite as much as I love Hatate and I wouldn't want to see him leave, I just can't help but feel that he's kind of like half checked out a wee bit. And I want you to answer this question, Regan and Phil. We can both answer this question. In fact, Shell Tick 67. Shell Tick. If you had a choice, who would you sell, Matt O'Reilly or Hatate? That's a hard one, eh? That's a hard one.
It's a very hard one, but for me, David, it's actually very easy because I think Matt O'Reilly is somebody that could potentially get his move next summer, and you could possibly get the same amount of money. And plus, he enjoys Glasgow. His family's enjoying Glasgow, and he is still bought into Celtic. I think Rio is possibly somebody, like you said, that's checked out. But I would say for me to watch, I think Rio is the best player to watch. I think the player that I wouldn't mind losing would be I think it would be him over Matt.
It is a difficult one because you can look at it from 2 points of view. You can look at it from we'll get more money out of Matt O'Reilly to invest. Now, if I ran the club, this is if the board, obviously they might think differently to me about investing the money that they get from Matt O'Reilly. But if it was me, you could be looking at it going, well, if we sell Matt O'Reilly, we'll obviously get a bigger war chest back on him to spend and invest in the club. But I think obviously it's hard one because, like you said, like I think Hatate, you enjoy watching Hatate because just the way he moves and the risky passes he makes. But I think there's no argument who the better player is and who you'd get more money for. But it's hard to It's hard. It's such a difficult one. Celtic, you've thrown a massive.
Out the corner of my eye, I'm looking at the chat now, and it seems very split as well. There's a few votes for O'Reilly, a few votes for Hatate, lots of different reasons and rationale, and you can't really disagree with many of them. But people are coming in and saying there is justifiable pros and cons to both. So yeah, it's a tough one. That is.
It is a tough one. It is a tough one, but it's not for us to worry about. That's for Rodgers to worry about. And apparently, he is being proactively planning for the future of Celtic's midfield, recognising that they need to strengthen it, regardless of whether star midfielder Matt O'Reilly remains at the club.
David, I don't want to keep bringing up Stephen Wright's points, but he said that Matt.
Good points. Bring them up, mate. They're good.
Bring them up, man.
Bring them up. I think Matt was saying. He was saying that basically that Matt was second choice to Moy just 2 years ago. So I think, and as well that everybody said about a year ago, David, just what Ange Postecoglou was going to do when Tom Rogic was retired. It'd be so hard to replace him, and Celtic managed to do it straight away.
Yeah.
So,
and there you go. There's my point. I completely forgot that Rogic was even in the team last year. Or 2 years ago. Totally forgot.
Yeah.
Unbelievable play for Celtic. Stupid amount of unbelievable goals and memories. And he went completely over my mind there when I was trying to think of former midfielders.
His last season was Ange's first season because he scored a really important goal at Ibrox, didn't he? And the game we beat them 2-1.
That kind of proves my point. That kind of like highlights my point of, there will be, when he leaves, fond memories, but somebody else will hopefully take that mantle and run with it. And one of them potentially could be Arne Engels, who is reported to have told his friends that he wants to move to Celtic. As the Hoops eye him, that's nice of him. As the Hoops eye him up as the ideal replacement for Matt O'Reilly, the 20-year-old emerged as a target this week, having established himself as one of the most talented young midfielders in the Bundesliga, with Osberg, valued at 9 million by his current club. It would take an investment touching Celtic's transfer record to bring him in, but should O'Reilly leave for close to £30 million, then that's a good chunk of that fee that would have been made available to replace him, Phil. Now, that's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not wanting to get 30 million for Matt O'Reilly and spend it on 7 shite, 1.5 to 3 million midfielders. Go out there and splash the cash on one of the Bundesliga's top emerging young talents who has told his friends that he wants to come to Celtic. And now, if that is true, that'll be 2 players that have been desperately wanting to move to Celtic, because I'm sure Adam Ida will have told his friends and probably told Regan that he was coming back, that he wanted to come back to Celtic. So that's another positive, that maybe, just maybe, Celtic is becoming a place that players are telling their friends that they want to play for again.
Well, if they do go down the route of if Matt O'Reilly leaves and that is the type of investment that they go for Engels and spend that type of money, then finally the board are getting it. I believe I've seen a few different podcasts or different interview things flying about social media in the last few days. It's supposedly somewhere Brendan Rodgers is meant to have said in an interview about the investment. He would much rather we invested like that type of price on 3 or 4 players a window, rather than what we did last summer, where it was like, 2 million, 1 million on 9 different players, all these different, we spent about 18 million on 9 players. He'd rather do that because that's how, because if you're selling guys like Matt O'Reilly, who over a few years have accumulated this transfer fee of about 30 million, which is an incredible profit. But his theory is, it seems, if you can bring in players at that price, you could probably sell them for an even bigger price in a couple of years. So these are the types of players we should be looking at. And I have said before, and I will be consistent in this, when it comes to price, I'm not too fussed about how much Celtic pay. I just want to know that Celtic have done their due diligence and scouted them properly, which again has been a real problem for Celtic in recent years. We went from a period about a decade ago where we were plucking players out of nowhere. Van Dijk, nobody heard of him. Wanyama, nobody heard of him. Gary Hooper, who was he? These were the type of players. Beram Kayal, Emilio Ezagiri. All these players came in. They weren't always that expensive, but they were all unbelievable. So it just shows you when you pay, even a smaller price. The players can be good. You've just got to do your due diligence. But somewhere along the line, our scouting has gone just completely wrong. Something has gone off on a tangent somewhere. I want to say around about Ronnie Dyler's time in charge. It feels like that's where this began, relying on loans and going for project players and whatnot. So, but it's if they do go for Engels though, that is you're be encouraged by that, and that's the type of thing that I think would capture the imagination of the fans. You saw at the weekend. The reception Adam Ida got, and don't get me wrong, Adam Ida had spent 6 months on loan with us, so we already knew what we were getting. But also, I think that price that we've paid for him has also added to the excitement around him. And you see the atmosphere at Celtic Park on Sunday when he was coming off the bench. And when I first saw the team line up on Sunday, that was the first thing I thought. I know he does not played a lot of football over the last few weeks, but I thought he still would have maybe started. But when I saw he was on the bench, I thought the reason for that is so he gets the big heroes reception coming on, which he did. If Engels was to be signed for that type of price, he would get a similar reception as well, because it'll capture the imagination of the fans.
No, absolutely. And now Regan, he's only 20 years old, but he's had 50 appearances in the Bundesliga, scoring 3 goals and 9 assists last season.
Yep.
You know, of course, he also played in the Challenger Pro League, and he's also played in the UEFA Youth League and yada. So, I mean, even at 20 years old, and it is quite a substantial price tag that they're asking for. But you're getting a player that's got plenty of experience playing in one of Europe's top 5 leagues. Now, if Celtic can attract a player to leave the Bundesliga, now this is he said the report says that he's a young and upcoming one of the German league's top young talents. Now, surely another German side would be interested in signing him, but if he's keen, if reports are to be believed, and his friends' WhatsApp groups are to be believed, that he would prefer to come play his trade in Scotland for Celtic.
Aye.
I mean, what does that tell us about where Celtic are right now in terms of attracting players of that caliber? If they're willing to leave the Bundesliga to come to Celtic, speculation purely. Other than
I think these are the type of players that Brendan Rodgers was brought by to Celtic for. David, I think that these are the kind of players that he wants to work with. He doesn't want 10 project players. He wants players that are £10 million, and you can develop them to make £40 million. Because the biggest example I can give you is if you look at somewhere like Shakhtar. Now, if you look at Shakhtar, they play in a very bad league, but they sell players to Serie A, the Spanish league. I think they sold a winger to Chelsea for over 90 million quid. You know, Mudryk. I just feel like sometimes we become used to selling players for 20 million and thinking it's a good profit. But of course, if you sell, if you buy someone for like £2 million and you get 20, that's great. But see if you start buying players for 12 million, then you can go, well, possibly we can sell them for say 30 to 40 million, because people like Mudryk, I mean, he's been to Chelsea and he's done great. I just think these so-called the bigger type players seem to attract more attention, and I'm sure when Mal O'Reilly does go to Brighton, I'm sure his next transfer fee will be in the region of 70 to 80 million. Because if you look at somebody like I can't remember the guy that plays for Crystal Palace, that he moved from Blackburn.
Blackburn. Is it not Elise that went to Bayern Munich this summer?
No.
Is it him?
the Irish boy, the Irish boy that you kept going on about, he's moved. He's not moved to Crystal Palace. He's moved to.
Aye, it's Ipswich. He signed for Ipswich. He was playing against Liverpool.
Is that what you're talking about, Regan? No, sorry.
Or there's a Palace guy that got into the England squad, a midfielder. Anyway.
Is he?
Oh, it's Wharton. It's Wharton. It's Adam Wharton.
No. Oh, right, okay.
He moved to Crystal Palace for something like 20 million, right? But now they're talking about him leaving Crystal Palace for £90 million. That's a guy that moved from Crystal Palace from Blackburn in January. and he's been down there. He's got an England squad, and now they're talking about 90 million to sell him. You know what I mean? So he's only been there for 6 months. He's impressed, and now people are saying I've put a 90 million price tag on him. So I think it just shows you as well.
I think the landscape of transfers are going to change drastically in the next 5 years, and I don't mean in terms of going up the way. I think we're going to see. I think it's going to plateau a wee bit, if not go down the way, with the rules and regulations that they're putting in place, because they can't just keep going up and up and up and up and up. It's not sustainable. The clubs aren't bringing enough money to, apart from Chelsea, apparently. The clubs aren't generating enough cash and revenue to justify the spending. I think that's why you're seeing the likes of Liverpool and stuff barely making any signing so far in this window. Because what's there 10 days left, and I don't think Liverpool have made a single signing yet. So I can't see it keeping going that way. Yeah, I asked. It's funny. I thought this for a split second, and I thought no, but could we get Mudryk on loan? Listen. Chelsea need to move some folk on. You never know.
But,
did you not see that thing, David, at the weekend? Had the official match program or whatever. It had the squad list in it, and there was apparently 23 players in the first team that weren't even on the official squad list. That's how many players they've got to sit and go and spare right now. So surely there's something we could get off of Chelsea, a wee loan off of them somewhere. There must be players that aren't even being registered for the Premier League squad.
Yeah, Regan.
I know we usually do a bit of quiz on a Monday night, but remember, I think I was talking on the first episode of the Tuesday Ticket about Brendan Rodgers possibly choosing players that he's worked with previously.
I
think there's a certain Chelsea player that Brendan Rodgers has worked with previously.
Have you got Raheem Sterling? Are you going to say him?
Yep.
I don't think he was a fan of him, though, was he?
Steady. Remember that? Steady.
You say steady to me one more time. You're fucking raging, wasn't he? You say steady to me one more time. You know what you said. You know what you said. Sterling.
But
You wee bastard, you cheeky bastard. Sterling. I'd have Raheem Sterling at Celtic, no problem. Not a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sterling is pishy arses. I mean,
no, it's good.
I remember when we
Mickey
played
Johnson or Sterling.
When we played Man City in 2016, the Champions League, and I think he'd only just signed for City that summer, and he was excellent that night. I remember at one point, he was just I think he actually scored, or no, Fernandinho scored, Nolito scored, and no, Sterling did score. Sterling did score one of the goals that night, but he was good. He was excellent that night. Obviously, he's obviously aged quite a bit now. He's getting on a wee bit in his career, but I suppose he can still do a job. If you ever fancy up here,
we're wasting our breath. He's not coming. He's not coming.
No, he's not.
Till Paul asks, who would Sterling take over from? Well, he's a right winger, isn't he? But he can also play on the left. He could certainly get past Palmer. He put Palmer on the bench. Come on. I mean, I know he's not having a great season at Chelsea, but I mean, fuck me. He's better than Palmer. But he's also on 325k a week, says your mom. So I mean,
if Chelsea fancy paying most of that, then yeah, cool, no problem. But yeah, Chelsea do have a lot of players going spare though right now. They are in a lot of bother, so you never know. Maybe there'll be something at the last minute.
I don't know, man. I don't know what the hell's going on at Chelsea, but it's. Did you see the footage of them in the gym? Them all in the gym.
No,
it was like the 1st of January. It was like New Year, New Me at Chelsea.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Madness. Well, there's more potential players leaving the club, and that would be our Swedish sensation, that is Gustav Lagerbielke.
Sensation.
I spent months trying to learn how to pronounce his name, and the fucker made about 2 appearances and fucked off. So yeah, he could potentially be going on loan. There's been no agreement yet that he is heading to. I think it's a Dutch side. Herenveen.
Correct. That's it.
That's right.
Beautiful, mate.
Oh, yeah, it's like you're just listening to Arnie Slot on the telly there. So potentially he could potentially leaving on loan. I'm still surprised that Aberdeen haven't inquired about him, considering he played under that manager in Sweden. I thought that would have been a shoe-in. However, it's not. if he heads to Holland, fair play to the boy. I actually feel sorry for him. I think he's
Me as well, actually.
I think he's been treated very poorly by the board and arguably the manager. He could have been playing in Italy for the rest of the season last year. I mean, he gets a title out of it, so I don't feel too bad for him. But yeah, I think it's best that he moves on. And does that, Phil, mean that there's a centre back on its way? McLaughlin P knows where I'm going with that one. There's now room for another centre back, a left-sided centre back, ideally. Looking at you, Scales. Oh, Scales played really well. He did play really well. I still want better than him, though. Phil, is there room for an upgrade in that position?
Oh, always got to look to upgrade, man. They're out there to be done. So you should highlight Liam Scales there. Yeah, he's a serviceable centre back, but we can always get better. We always can. It's ridiculous the way Laga Bielka's been treated, man. It's an absolute shambles. Honestly, whoever was behind that one, I was going to say needs to get their jotters, but realistically, maybe it was Mark Lawwell and his head chief scout. Maybe they were behind it, and that is one of the reasons why they got the sack. But yeah, it's been an absolute joke, really. Now, obviously, Nawrocki will still be in the building. Stephen Welsh is still in the building as well. Do the board look at it and go, well, you've still got... In fact, Kobayashi's still in the building as well. Do the board look at it and go, well, you've still got all of these centre-backs here. Try and utilise them. Yeah, still got Kobayashi. There you go, is his name right there. I hope though. I mean, I hope that we can go out there and get somebody new, because we've given Nawrocki a bit of a try. Kobayashi was a failed experiment, and Stephen Welsh. Yeah, how many times do we go round with Stevie Welsh and he keeps getting injured as well? Every time he comes in and has like a decent performance, he somehow gets injured as well. So I do think we need to look to get another centre back in. Whether it is at this stage in the window, I know a lot of fans aren't happy with this idea, but even if it's a loan with an option to buy, as long as that's in there and it's somebody for a year where we've got a sort of try before you buy. Because remember, one Cameron Carter-Vickers was signed on a similar deal, came in on a loan at the very, very end of that window, and he turned out all right. So it's not the worst idea to go and get a loan at this stage with an option to buy, providing it turned out okay. I know Darrell O'Shea's name has came up a few times. He was likely to go to Brentford, but I believe that hasn't happened yet. And then there was an incident as well last week when Adam Eder announced on Instagram it was signed for Celtic. Darrell O'Shea was right in the chat there going, yes, love it, lad, or something like that. And it's like, is that one of his friends? Is that one of Adam Eder's friends that he told of it going to Celtic? Is that maybe? I come on up to Glasgow, not that. So that we'll wait and see on that one. But yeah, the Laga Bielka thing is best for all involved that he heads off to pastures new. It's not worked out. The club haven't covered themselves in glory with the way that they've handled it. But yeah, off he goes. Just another name, another number, another stat. He's played for Celtic over the years.
Now, we're going to bring this up. Regan, your maw, not your maw. This your maw, not Regan's maw. This guy, Anyway, he says no loans, no excuses. Get the 4 or 5 players that we need. Totally agree. However, I'm not fully against a loan. If need be. Regan, now we know there's tons of money in the bank, right? We know there is.
Loads.
And we've talked about that, but we're looking at by the looks of things, maybe Celtic's becoming a slightly more attractive place to come again. What's the biggest stumbling block, Regan? I don't think it's the price tag, Regan. I think it's the wage structure. Is that Celtic's biggest stumbling block? To attract these £9 million players, these Darren O'Shea's and whoever else you want to throw at it, is the wage structure the biggest issue? Because I'm sorry, if Adam Eder's just signed for £9 million, he's got to be one of the top earners at the club, and I think that's now setting the precedent of maybe Celtic need to dig a bit deeper when it comes to the weekly wages, and maybe not necessarily just the price tag.
I think that's spot on, David, because the bigger the price you bring in, the more wages that player want to acquire. And I think people have said for years that McGregor's the biggest paid player, probably on something like 30 to 35 grand a week. And see if you're talking about that Belgium guy from the Bundesliga, 20 years of age, he'll probably, see, because he's 10 million price tag, he's probably won them, like, I don't know, but quite a lot of money
Absolutely, mate.
I just feel like sometimes Celtic need to stop thinking that they play in Scotland all the time, and they need to start paying what they're supposed to be paying. And I think Brendan Rodgers is spot on when he says that they pay for the player, not for the league. Because I think that's something that we spoke about with Miovski. I mean, people would say, "Oh, but you should never pay 7 million for a player playing at Aberdeen." See if the guy's worth it. He's worth it. It doesn't matter where he plays or how many goals he's scoring. See if he's going to if he's going to repay Celtic, and he's going to make me enjoy football. So Celtic should pay it, because they're a total financial different world to anybody else in Scottish football. You know what I mean? They've got 60 million in the bank. They've still got Champions League football to come. That they're probably going to go into the window in a weaker position because they're losing their best player, but they're probably going to go in with a financial more money in the bank from what they're going to from what they're going to bring in players for. So I just feel like Celtic need to speculate to accumulate.
Absolutely. Now, Phil, I don't know if you caught this on Talksport, but they were discussing obviously club wage structures, and they were just talking about the whole finances around football now, and they went on to the topic of bonuses, and they were discussing how obviously back in the day they'd be like, X amount, you get X amount of £100 added onto your pay packets for how many goals, assists, all individual bonuses.
Yep.
However, they were saying that in Brentford especially, they now go on bonuses depending on if when they hit certain stats, in terms of XGs and assists, and how many passes per game. That's now how they're going down this route for almost like stat packing, essentially, for players' bonuses, and it's no longer an individual bonus; it's a team bonus. Everybody will get a couple of grand added onto their wage packet if they hit these checkpoints. Now, I don't know if Celtic go down a bonus structure in terms of like how many goals and assists, or if they do their team statistics in terms of XGs and stuff. If it's a passing XG, then they're certainly racking up the extra.
William Scales will be earning a
Zeros.
fortune in that case,
Aye.
man. Jeez, oh. Yeah, man.
He's minted. No wonder he's not moving on.
Jeez, oh. Aye, man.
He's sideways passing. But yeah, I think Celtic need to find a way, Phil, in terms of how they they're going to attract these types of players if it's in case of we can't really afford the wages on him. There was talks of trying to get Jota back, but I mean his wages are just astronomical now. We'll just never ever be able to bring him in, even on loan. I don't know where Celtic go for there, but like I think it's everyone in the chat here is all singing from the same spreadsheet. That the wage structure needs to be modernised to suit the world that we're now operating in.
There's no reason why not. We've got the money. We're advertising it very clearly how much money we've got. This was really confusing a lot of fans, but it's like we're quite happy to brag and tell the world of Scottish football how much cash we've got, and then we seem just very reserved in how we're spending it. Okay, yes, next year there is a risk of we might not qualify for the Champions League because the automatic spot is gone. Have to go through qualifiers, and of course our record in qualifiers in the last decade or so, it's a bit sketchy at times. There's been a few who have managed to get there, but we certainly don't make it easy. Hapoel Beersheva comes to mind. Shakhtar Karagandhi, ring any bells? These were tough ones that we got there in the end, but yeah, it was hard. And you've got your nights like Legia Warsaw, Malmo, these types of teams putting us out.
Was it Karabag as well?
Oh god, I remember playing Karabag, yeah. Boyata scored, I think, at Celtic Park, and we drew 0-0 out there, a horrendous 0-0 draw.
It was a game we won 5-0, and then
we beat Astana. We beat Astana 5-0 at Celtic Park. Then we lost like 4-3 out in Kazakhstan. Was it
that game? We're so lucky to go through that game. I think.
Yeah. Aye. But but with the we might not have it in the Champions League next season because of the qualifiers. Well, the fact is, see if you build a squad that can at least somewhat compete in the Champions League, which is one of our biggest issues, right? We go into these European competitions in recent years and we just get turned over. We're not a threat anymore to a lot of teams. We are a tourist attraction for most of the big teams. If we have a team that at least can put up a bit of a fight and just maybe scrape through to the next round of the Champions League, because we ought to finish the top 24 this coming season to get through, then the domestic stuff will take care of itself. You've got a team that can compete in Europe, and then we should be able to navigate the qualifiers. But again, we always handle that really badly, because again, we've all got nightmares of going into qualifying games with Near Beaton having to start at centre back because we were short at centre back and having to start a midfielder there. These are the type of things that we do. So I'm sure when next summer rolls around, if we've got qualifiers, do not be surprised if we're looking at some sort of a patch-up job to cover a position, or it just wouldn't even shock you at this stage. It's staring the Celtic board, the club, right in the face of what they need to do. They've got the money to do it. Why they don't just put the ball in the net, essentially, it's beyond me.
Regan, Phil touched on Celtic being a bit of a tourist attraction for opposition players to visit on a nice wee day out to scud us in the Champions League. I don't know if you saw tonight, just before we came on, Celtic have advertised, I'm assuming, a straight to DVD, if that's still a thing. You can get in the Celtic store, or maybe buy it online, I don't know. But I think it's a recap of the season of last year. And there was an interesting quote that I heard Brendan say in the dressing room that was, "Paradise is for us, and we need to make it hell for everybody else." Now, if that's the message that he's sending out, then that's great. I love it. Great soundbite for the advert.
I didn't see that, David.
Great soundbite. It sounds class, but it's got right now, from what we've seen in the Champions League, it's birthday card pish, and I want to see, actions speak louder than words, and and it also has to be from us as fans as well. We need to stop making Celtic a nice day out for everybody. It's a nice day out for us because paradise is for us, like Brendan says. It's no for the visiting fans. It's certainly not for Rangers because they're not allowed in. But the point I'm making is, Celtic Park can't be a tourist attraction anymore. We have to make it hell. We have to make it difficult. And if we're going to be going through Champions League qualifiers again from next season, then we have to make sure that we make it a difficult place for the opposition to visit, so we can continue to operate in the Champions League and fill up the board's pockets, because that's all they do with it anyway. But you know where I'm going with that, Regan.
David, I think Brendan Rodgers made a good point to Premier Sports when I spoke to him on Sunday. And they asked him about potential people coming in. And the person on punditry, she said, your squad's strong enough, is it no, for Scottish football? And he said, well, I don't want to just go into the Champions League and make up the numbers in the Champions League. So I think Brendan Rodgers is fully aware that this squad at the moment is perfectly able to do well in Scottish football. But Brendan Rodgers wants to make him a mark in Europe. I think probably the last big mark that they made in Europe was one of the matches that was RB Leipzig. Tierney scored and then Edward got a penalty. That was probably the big one of the last games. And then the other one I can think it was McGregor scored against Zenit St. Petersburg when the infamous Charlie Masonda he laid off the ball and
what a pass it was.
McGregor put the ball in the net.
A Chelsea loanee that Brendan brought in.
Aye, but I think Brendan just wants to get back to making Celtic respectable in Europe and know, like you said, David, just the bigger opposition from bigger leagues just expecting to go to Celtic Park and just turn up and not need to work hard for victory. But I think it's one of those things where see if we can bring in that added quality that Brendan Rodgers keeps speaking about that Celtic have still not brought in. That if they manage to do that, then I think they can do that. And like I said, if they can spend a little bit more money that's available clearly, then I think hopefully that can be able to make a mark. Because I don't want to bring it up, but I got a little bit jealous 2 or 3 years ago, David, when Rangers got to the final in Seville. I mean, I was watching John Lundstrom, Jack, Alfredo Morelos. All those guys were just one penalty away from winning the trophy. I mean, that was one of the worst nights ever, David. You know what I mean?
Regan, I was more worried that you were going to get an Adamida shirt for me than Rangers winning that Europa League. Even when it was only a one kick away, I was still more concerned about Adamida's shirt getting sent to you on the 15th of August. Nah, I know what you're saying though, mate. Like, because I remember sitting in the waiting on the Bodo Glimt game, the home one, and I pulled before it to look at the score, and I couldn't believe they were beating Borussia Dortmund. In fact, I think they'd beaten them by the time we kicked off. I was sitting in the ground going, I can't fucking believe that they've just beat Borussia Dortmund at home. So I was extremely jealous of that as well. I'll happily put my hands up and admit that.
To just add to that, David, like Stephen Ray has obviously pointed out to Regan's examples, they were all in the Europa League, but you've just talked about Rangers beating Borussia Dortmund away in the Europa League. I would happily like to see Celtic go away to any of these types of teams in the Europa League and go that far in the Europa League. I would happily take that, but the way the new structure is, this is the worst part about it, is there's no more drop downs. There's no more. The Champions League, you're in the Champions League competition, you're in it, and that's it. If you don't get into the top 24, you don't go into the next round after Christmas. You just drop away out of Europe. There's no more drops down to the Europa League. So what is success for Celtic in Europe now? Getting through to the next round of the Champions League just to potentially make up the numbers? Because the only way to get into the Europa League at the moment, I believe, will be through failing in the qualifiers or losing the league title, which is definitely not an option. But realistically, if we had to do any sort of thing in Europe, if we have the chance to make a mark, it's probably in the Europa League. That's the problem, because the level of the Champions League, even though they've restructured it and UEFA have dressed it up as, this new revamp they're doing, it's still very much weighed towards the big teams, the Man Cities, the Barcelonas, the Real Madrids. It's all still going to benefit them.
Yeah.
Teams like us are still not going to get anywhere, but the Europa League would be a great level for us. But the only way to get in there,
it's to come second.
It's to come second. It's like we can't do that.
So, but that's it. There's no safety net. Then that's what Rodgers has to sell to the board. Like, look, there's no safety net now. We are at the minute, until it changes, we are a Champions League club, and he doesn't want. He said it himself. He doesn't want to just turn up and be part of it. He wants to participate. Yes, we'll very unlikely ever win it ever again. Okay.
See,
However, just turn up and make a real fist of it. And if that's if that is the burden that we have to bear of being champions in a league that we have to compete in a competition that we aren't queued up for at the minute, then start tooling up, Regan. Start tooling up.
see, to play devil's advocate, might this be a big bargaining tool for Brendan Rodgers that, by the way, you have not got the drop down anymore. You need to
Yeah.
spend more money, and that might
Yeah.
be a good bargaining tool for Brendan Rodgers to go, well, you know,
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying, Regan. Yeah,
because
there's no excuse now. That's the
yeah,
competition we play in.
spot on, because then then that might push the board to go that little bit extra, because they say, well, we don't want to be embarrassed anymore. We want to try and give the best possible version of Celtic that we can possibly go. I mean, look, I don't think there's anybody on the Celtic that watches Celtic is saying that we should go and spend 40 million in players. What we're saying is that we should be sensible, but we should go a little bit more than what we're doing right now. And I think everybody's made some great points. So no, I just think Brendan Rodgers is. I think he's in full control, David. But I'll probably change my mind this time next Tuesday when we're just 3 days away from the deadline.
Regan, you seen all these messages here that I should still buy a top despite you losing this bet. You see this? Look at this. Gary lost it by 1 day out, and I think David should just buy me. That's not how gambling works. He didn't cash out.
I was amping up the pressure on Friday night when I was on with Michael and Liam. I said that as well. I think, I think David should still buy him something, because that was a hell of a shout. Mate, the 14th of August, you were 1 day out.
Right,
Fair
fine.
play to you, man.
I tell you what, Regan. How many likes we got on this show so far?
I'll need to open up YouTube and find it.
How many likes? Somebody
Where's
tell
Pam?
me.
Pam's usually in the chat to tell us how many,
Pam.
but I haven't seen her the night, so
Right,
hold
Pam.
on. I'll open YouTube and I'll find out.
You think that's how friendship works? I've been in the same room with Regan once. We're associates. I'm joking, Regan. You're one of my bestest pals, mate. I talk to you more than I talk to my wife, I think. We've only got 37 likes.
Oh,
Only
come on.
37. Right. What? Let's get to what number should we get to, and I'll buy him his shirt. What's a realistic number, or maybe what's an unrealistic number, Regan? Maybe 9.5 million.
Good section of the poor boy here.
67, 60. We could do better than that. We're auctioning Regan a shirt here. Right.
Hold on till I go on to YouTube on my phone and put a wee like on it as well. Get the likes up.
I want. How many subscribers have we got? We've got over 3,000.
That's another one.
We're only 3,000 subscribers, and we're only wanting 67 likes.
Yeah.
Come
It's
on,
up at
man.
43 just now on my phone. I can see it's up to 43. There you go.
Right. Right. Okay. We need to break the record of how many likes we've had on a show. And I'll buy Regan his shirt for being one. And what I'll do is I'll get even though he's not number 9 on the shirt, I'll get him 14 written on the back. So he's got the date wrong.
Aye, Gary Brown, just buy him the shirt, Scrooge. This is cruel. Poor Regan.
Regan, you send me your address, mate, and I'll send you something, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Did you have something for that call? Was it June the 18th? You predicted
I was
I
thinking about getting you something, mate, but maybe I'll listen. Regan's a celebrity now.
True.
He's a celeb now. He's getting photographs taken outside Celtic Park. Everyone's talking about the Tuesday ticket. The Tuesday ticket's the show to be on, guys. 124 years watching live right now, and it's going up and up and up because it's they're hearing that there's an auction going on for Regan. But yeah, Regan, you've been getting some compliments, mate, on the show. It's great to get feedback that's no just on insults on.
Oh, Charles Smith for the comment of the night. He says David is on the board at Celtic. Yeah, first game.
Oh, we got it.
Yeah, man.
Nah, listen.
No, David,
Regan.
I think it's great to hear so many people enjoying the Tuesday ticket. So I'm just glad that people are stopping me at Celtic Park as well. So it's great to see.
Yeah, it's great to see because this was a show that we kind of just thought like we'll just do it through the sort of the transfer windows. But I do really enjoy just coming on and having a blitz. So we might need to change the format slightly because there's not much rumours going on in between transfer window when the transfer window's shut. But we can find. I'm sure we can find things to talk about because, like I said, the Tuesday tickets doing really well. Phil, like I said, recognised. Regan's getting recognised in the street for being a Tuesday ticket member now. He's one of the top Tuesday ticketers. Who's going to get a Celtic top for David for being one day out, even though he was wrong. But Regan, you send me your address in a private message, mate, and you can get one when I'm paid. All right. do some extra haircuts this week to buy you top, you bastard. And I'll get 55 on the back.
Oh God. Well, looks like we might be getting to that number soon anyway, and the old title wins, if you keep track of that stuff.
Right.
54 at the moment, I think we're on. So, yeah.
Get my cap in. I'll buy you some piesports.com pies. I'll buy you 14 piesports.com pies. Nah, right. Well, we've hit the hour, guys, and we're just blethering.
Just having a banter now, aye.
It's all about the banter. What's on the bus this week, Phil, before we go? Just
TNF will be on with Mark and Boise. I'll be along on Friday night. Friday feeling.
Jim C will be buzzing. Jim C will be buzzing.
Well, yeah, at the start, aye. They had to make do with us dafties tonight, as we were called last week. But yeah, it was just us dafties that were on tonight. But yeah, Thursday night forum's on, and yeah, the Friday feeling will be here. Yes, Sunday, a whole month of Sundays, another Sunday game for Celtic this week. St Mirren and Paisley, so I'll be doing the Friday feeling preview to that, and on Sunday PMP will be along as well. Maybe a bit of carnage filled again as it was at the weekend there. Terry, he was having a good time. That Collie Wally really fueled him up. I don't know if it was a Collie Wally though. I think it was a few other things that fueled him up, to be fair, but that was carnage, that episode. So yeah, that'll all be on as well, I'd imagine, on Sunday. But of course, people can hit that subscribe button and they'll be notified accordingly when a show comes along.
Exactly. Brilliant. Right. Well, we'll see you next Tuesday, and Regan might have a shirt by then. You never know. All right. Peer pressure. Right. I don't normally give in to peer pressure, but apparently I am tonight. So
you are indeed.
So, Regan, send me your address, you bastard.
See you later, folks. See you.